Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, episode 148.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.
All right, guys. Robert, thanks for coming on the show. I'm excited to have you here. How are you today?
I'm very good, Jamie. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, this is something I wanted to do, both with this group, and you were so gracious to have me on your group, your show, not too long ago. So it just made sense, and hearing what you were doing, that we had the chance to do that today. So I want to jump in right away and talk about, that burning question. When I look at the headline that we created for our episode today, how any busy chiropractor can create a six-figure salary or grow six-figure business in 90 days. First thing I think about is, okay, I've built a handful of businesses and six-figure businesses, and they definitely didn't happen in 90 days. So if I'm listening to this, that's the first red flag I'm thinking about. Why don't you address that and tell us, how that's actually possible?
Yeah, for sure. And it's important to just clarify what I mean by that is that we've developed a system using external experts, which we'll discuss the details with later, so that the business can go from zero to being built and launched within 90 days,
Gotcha.
Having the potential to generate, six figures per year. So It's not to say that within 90 days you're going to be earning $100,000. No.
Right.
It does take time to get to those numbers. However, you will have once it's launched, you'll have a business that has the framework and the potential to do that in 90 days with the new system that we're using.
Gotcha. Well, that makes total sense. So let's dig in and find out more about what that's about. So Robert, let's go backwards and talk a bit about you, how you got here, and how you've been able to reproduce this kind of success over and over again with different clients. If people are wondering, Robert was telling me earlier, he is energized for today, but he's also tired. You just have a new addition to the family.
I do. I've got a 3-week-old daughter that has just come into our lives. I'm very, very energized. But if I do look slightly pale or something, it's because last night it was a bit of a rough night. But I love teaching this stuff, so I'm ready to go. So
that's good. And your daughter's name?
Josephine.
Now that's your third child, right?
Third child. We had 2 boys that are 9 and 6, and now we just got the little girl.
Great. So everybody must be super excited.
Super excited. And I mean, we're talking about going online. It was my major driving factor of learning this online game was my children. So
right.
When I go through my backstory, it'll make more sense. But
so why don't you tell us a bit about your backstory, how you got into chiropractic and where you practice and how you got to this point where you decided, what, I need to bring some of this online, and where you are today.
Yeah. So very quickly qualified as a chiropractor in South Africa, 2006. Went over to the UK and had a practice in London, worked as an associate. Was lucky enough to be put in front of, all the mentors and coaches and built a large vitalistic practice in London. Mm-hmm. And then it got to a point where after a few years, I missed the sun. And I came back to South Africa and moved to Cape Town and got married. And then built, my practice of my dreams, something that's important, I think, especially to the younger doctors, if they are in your audience, is in London, I built a practice that was very successful from a volume and financial point of view, but it wasn't in alignment with who I truly was.
Right. Well, stop there for a second. I think that's something that a lot of doctors deal with. Especially when you're new, you get out of school, even within the first 5 years, it's all about, I got to pay these student loans back. I want to be successful. Success means, money and financial benefit. But then you realize, that's not everything for sure. And if you can combine those two, that's obviously the gold standard. But tell us a bit about what you came to understand and why you went in a different direction.
Yeah, you've got to know who you are, what your values are. You've got to understand yourself, your personality, the way you like to communicate, the way you like to engage with people. And, coaches and mentors are amazing. They can teach you systems, they can teach you structures. But if you're just following, and in those days it was all scripted, I'm sure you've had awareness of all of this.
Sure.
in those days, it was just do what I tell you and you'll be successful. I was
Right.
young and I was like, okay, fine, I'll do what you say. And I did it. But a big shocker for me was when I'd wake up on a Monday morning, and I wasn't looking forward to going into practice at all.
It's so funny
I
you say
mean,
that. I remember those days, even in my own practice, and I was doing my own thing. I don't know if other people are listening. If you're listening in, depending where you're watching this stream, if it's in the Facebook group or listening to the podcast, but if you are in the Facebook group, I'd be interested to know how many doctors have the same feeling. Pop in the comments. Yeah, me too. And I hated Mondays. It was just like this anxiety and pressure.
so
And so it's nice to know I wasn't alone.
you weren't. And I mean, I'd walk into a report of findings and I wasn't excited to change this person's life. I was stressed. I was anxious because I knew I was going to be going through this whole process that was scripted for me. And
Right.
I got to a point where I was like, this can't go on. So I went back to Cape Town, started my own practice, and sat down right from the ground up and said, what is my dream practice? How am I going to communicate? What volume do I want to see? Who do I want to see? And I really created a crystal clear vision of what I wanted. And I did create that, and I feel very blessed to do that. But then I came up against another challenge where my life changed when I got married and had 2 kids,
Right.
and my priorities changed.
Right.
And here I was with my successful practice,
Right.
but I was leaving home at 6:30 in the morning to get to that 7 a.m. adjustment. I was coming home at 5:30, 6 p.m. I was doing workshops. I had a little Vespa scooter. I would adjust on the Vespa scooter, straight to a corporate, do a talk, sign up some new patients, back. I mean, hamster wheel,
Right.
And when my second son was born and I realized that I was missing, all of these things because I was gone before he woke up. And when I came home, he was almost asleep. I thought to myself, this cannot carry on again. It was another
Right.
time of my life where I hit this block. So I sat down and I thought, I've done the associate thing. Yes, it works, but there were certain parts of it I didn't enjoy. I've done the multiple sites. I've done the products. We all try and do these things to create a business out of a practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what is it that truly makes me on fire? And I'll tell you when I knew what it was. I got viral meningitis one year.
Ouch.
And it was so bad that I was in bed. I couldn't even lift my head for 7 days. Fevers, the works. But I had a big presentation, a big talk at a university to speak to the university staff there. And it was to 300 people or something. And I just didn't want to miss this opportunity to engage with these people. So the Friday morning comes in. I've still got a temperature. There's sweat in the bed. And I say to my wife, I've got to go to this. I can't miss this opportunity. She drags me there. I'll get out the car shivering.
Good for
and
her.
I'm standing at the back. And they introduce me and I walk out. All symptoms are gone. Energy is through the roof. And for an hour, I am hovering above the ground. And I realized then that my passion is teaching.
Right.
And if I'm going to create a truly fulfilling life, I need to impact people through teaching. So long story short, I then decide going online is the best route for this because I want to teach at scale, and I want to build an income stream that's not based on time.
Right.
And
It's so funny how you were, we talk about the last couple of years with COVID and, all the restrictions and shutdowns and people's lives really being turned upside down. And here you were years before, this happened. You were already, ahead of the game in that sense where it was nice too, because it sounds like you leveraged an internal circumstance to make a decision, and you weren't necessarily put in a situation where it was an external circumstance, like a lot of people, me included, where it was my health issues and COVID, all these other things that kind of made me go, you know what, I need to take a jump, I need to leap. Good for you that that was earlier, and it just for everybody listening, I think that's the thing is if you can be driven internally to make a change. I think that that's the more ideal way, like our patients being forced from external self-driven, but external circumstances, symptoms, crises. It sounds like it came from within, which is, I think, fantastic.
Well, I'll say that it was a bit of both because internally, I knew I wanted to do this, but I wasn't taking enough action. I was dabbling. And this is, you probably hear it with chiropractors all the time. I would like this to happen. I would like to do this. That's kind of where I was. And I was researching, what I could do. However, there was an external that sped it up. And that was, and a lot of chiropractors will know this, a massive tax bill. I was hit with a massive tax bill, and it was completely unexpected. It was due to accounting issues and an error that was made by them and me. But that sped things up because suddenly I was put under a bit of pressure. So thinking back, what probably would have taken a year or two to get going happened a lot quicker because of that external pressure.
Well, there's power in pressure, right? There's power in constricting our time constraints. It was a Parkinson's law, right? Whatever amount of time you have, you'll use that time, and you can, going back to being internally driven, you can self-impose these. So let's say somebody's listening again, you don't have to wait until you get a tax bill and need to make $100,000-$200,000 to pay off your taxes. You can say, okay, in the next 90 days, which goes back to how you deal with your clients, in the next 90 days, I need to have this done, or I need to create some kind of external pressure, because I think we're all naturally driven that way. I know I am, the deadline of getting ready for today, or I've got a webinar coming up. I need those in place. Otherwise, it's too easy to keep delaying, especially for chiropractors who have a cushy life, and I'll repeat what I say often. Chiropractic is one of those professions where you don't have to be very good to be financially successful. And that makes it difficult, I think, and it makes it easy to just stay where you are.
It's so true. And I think a lot of chiropractors don't realize this, that as a business, it's so easy to earn a good income in chiropractic compared to other businesses. It's unbelievably easy. And we don't realize that. And I didn't realize that when I was in practice. I only realized that as I created other businesses. You have a lot more challenges in other businesses. But I will say this, one of the best decisions you can make is find somebody who's a mentor or something and just pay them the money. And I say this with complete authenticity. It's not because I coach people. It is, for me, I found somebody that I believed had the knowledge I wanted, and I paid them more than I possibly could afford. And suddenly it was like, there's no turning back.
Right.
The accountability is just there. There is no turning back. You have to generate this income that you've paid this mentor or whatever. And it was uncomfortable as hell, but I knew if I didn't do that, I would just trace back to, like you say, my comfortable practice, which was earning good income. It was kind of easy. It was working because the staff were trained and everything else. So when I came across this coach or mentor, I just said, right, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm signing on the dotted line. Now there's no turning back. You're going to create the life that you truly vision in 12 months, come hell or high water. And then it did happen.
Well, it's so similar to our patients. And, something that I think chiropractors can really leverage in their own journey is try and put yourself in the position of what you're engaging your patients in. They're coming in a crisis. Sometimes they're coming in not in a crisis if you've done great marketing and education. But you're left with this moment where, you're accepting their case or not, and they're making a decision. There's a big financial outlay in many cases for them. So they're in the same boat. And, chiropractors are notoriously cheap, in my experience. We do everything we can in our marketing to push those people away and attract the people who, again, are interested in taking big, massive steps in their life, even if they don't know how to do it or they're not sure what the next piece is. The same is true in your patients. They're left with that decision, and you're engaging them in a future outcome that's good for them. So it's easy for you to have that conversation. But remember, if you were to be empathetic to them, they're struggling with that decision. Like, I want that from that person. I'm not sure. Is it going to work? Am I going to get the benefit? But when a patient jumps in and they start their process, they're committed, they're going to get much better and really, in most cases, massive results from what we do. So just flip yourself around. If you're struggling like a patient is, you've got to find somebody that's going to help you get there. Otherwise, you're doing what your patients do, which is, they've done the whole 2 years of do it yourself. And I watch these videos, and especially now, you can go on Instagram and watching exercises. That's great. But how many patients come in your practice? Oh, I was doing these exercises for 5 years online. and I didn't get the result I wanted. And then in 16 weeks, they go through your process and boom, massive acceleration. It's the same in reverse, guys.
It's the same. You've got to pay for something to value it, and there's that value exchange, and there's something about that psychologically where I value it, I'm going to pay for it, and you benefit so largely from that. That's why, chiropractors who are undercharging, you're affecting the ability of your patients really to heal if you're undercharging. You're not helping them, you're hindering them. Don't overcharge them, of course.
Sure.
But charge them your worth of your services and the impact that can have on their lives. And I promise you, they will get better results because they're more in it,
right.
When you charge your worth.
And so are you. I mean, if you're charging, this is just a pricing conversation separate from this, but if you're charging what you're worth, or even pushing that envelope, which, I think we should do, it creates a natural drive for your team, for yourself to be better. Right. And I know in the past I had kind of almost had a box on the wall type practice way back in the day. And, I was angry with my patients because of what they were paying me. And I was resentful with my patients. And now we charge, so much that I'm pushing like, guys, we've got to be better. We've got to deliver a better service. This is not acceptable. And in the end, the patient's getting a much better experience, and then we're getting a much better outcome from it as well. So let's switch gears. Let's talk about online. How did you get there? Like, what was the decision? Okay, I got to go online. How did you find this mentor? Was there something were you looking? How did that journey unfold?
Man, I'll tell you the story, but I'm going to warn you, it's woo-woo. I mean, if you don't believe in synchronicity in life, it's going to shock you. But I'll give you the summarized version. I got to that point after the tax bill where I came to the decision I need a mentor, and I felt it right here. I need somebody that is further along than me that's going to guide me. And it wasn't even a few days later that mentor walked into my practice as a patient. And when he told me his background, he was a multiple entrepreneur, German guy, was traveling the world. He'd almost retired at the age of 35, incredibly successful human being. And he wasn't an online business coach, but he was just a mindset and business coach. And we went to lunch, and he said to me, I will get you to whatever goal you want, whatever it is that you want. It'll be the hardest year of your life. And it's going to put so much pressure on you, your family. It will push you to your absolute limits. But if you do what I tell you, you will get your goal. And I'm going to charge you, at that point, it was $24,000, which for me at that time in South African currency was an exceptionally high amount of money, especially that I was still trying to pay off this tax bill.
Right.
So this was the biggest leap of faith of my life. My family was concerned about it. I mean, it was a crazy.
Like, what are you doing, man?
I mean, and this is the thing. Sometimes the people that care about you the most, they're not supporting you. It's the opposite because they want to keep you safe, and sometimes you've got to look at them and say, I'm very blessed to have a very supportive wife, but there were other people in my life that were like, what are you doing? Right. So anyway, I worked with him. Then he said to me, one of the things he said was, I want you to go buy a book called Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. And I said, okay, great. So I went and I bought the book. In the beginning of the book, Russell Brunson tells a story about a guy called Jacob Hiller, who built a $10 million business teaching athletes how to jump higher. Literally, normal guy, average basketball player, put some videos on YouTube. A few years later, he's got a $10 million business just teaching how to jump higher. And I'm reading this and I'm thinking to myself, if a guy like that can build such a successful online business, surely me as a chiropractor with all the knowledge I have, I mean, I'm a chestnut disciple. We've got so many directions we can go. Surely I have something that is of value. I remember thinking that. The next week, I'm sitting in the practice. A patient comes in. I hear he's American, which is not unusual. I'm in a holiday town, so we see a lot of US citizens. And I look at his file, and it says that he's a trainer. So I say, great, what kind of training do you do? He says, I teach athletes how to jump higher.
Stop.
I look on the file and I say, are you Jacob Hiller? They said, yeah, Jacob Hiller. So I said, I just read about you last week in Russell Brunson's book. And he says, yeah, I know Russell well. Is it Expert Secrets? I said, I literally just read about you. So he goes, you know what's crazy? I was walking down the road. I saw your plaque on the wall. And I said to myself, I've never been to a chiropractor. I'm just going to walk in and see if they've got
Stop.
But it gets worse. It gets crazier than that. Then within the same month, a couple comes to see me. Now, another guy was looking at online, and he's not my vibe at all, but his name is Ty Lopez. But he was all over my Facebook thing. He's a kind of wealth coach.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, the Lamborghinis and the hot wife. So I was looking at his stuff and kind of seeing how he puts together his courses and things. A couple come to see me. It was an American husband, or they were engaged, American guy and a British lady. And they had an online yoga clothing business.
Okay.
Anyway, we got on pretty well. They were there for a couple of weeks. And then I said to the lady, how is it that you learned all this stuff going online? And she says, well, we used to work for a guy who's actually my husband's best friend. He's going to be the best man in our wedding next month. And he taught us everything. So I said, who's that? And she says, Ty Lopez. So basically within a month, or I'd say it was over about a 6-week period, I'd met my mentor, I'd met Jacob Hiller, and I'd met this couple. So to me, the synchronicity was
sure.
Yeah. And that's why it's crazy when I tell the story. Some people just think it's nuts and take it the way you want to take it.
Sure.
From then, I dedicated myself to learning everything about how to take my knowledge and turning it into online business. I did it myself. My mindset coach helped me from a structure and a mindset point of view, but I had to do it all myself. It was, 16 to 18-hour days. It was working on weekends. It was sacrificing time with my kids on weekends. It was the toughest year of my life. It was the most challenging year from a marriage point of view as well, from a health point of view, because I had to stop certain things. I had to stop my exercise and things like that.
Yeah.
But a year later, I built a 6-figure online business, and that completely changed the quality of my life. I immediately reduced my practice hours. I started taking my kids to school. And I actually get kind of emotional thinking about it. When I was working on those Saturdays while everyone else was having beers, and my 3-year-old would walk in and be like, why are you kind of working on a Saturday? I would say to him, I'm working now so that next year I can take you to school every single day.
Yeah. Well, let's stop there for a sec, because there's so much there, Robert. This is a great story. I got goosebumps actually myself. My kids right now are away, and it's funny like how kids change your life, right? For parents listening, you get this. Just think of my own kids gets me choked up too. But I've only been away from them for literally like 3 days, 4 days, right? And so, but I'm not going to see them for 5 weeks. They're away. And we did this last summer as well. They were away for 5 weeks, and I was here working, right? And it reminds me of the Dave Ramsey quote. Live like no one else, so later you can live like no one else.
That's it.
Right. And it's just, that's exactly it. And a lot of people don't get that. It's the same thing with, the people who are around you saying, I love you, but you're crazy, like $24,000, you got all this stuff. And for the people around us, it's tough because they see the 16, 18 hours, they see what you're doing to yourself, and they think, oh, this is going to be forever. And to be honest, in my case, I probably told my wife many times, it's just for this short time. It's just for this short time. And here we are, we're having our 10-year anniversary coming up in December. And I feel like it's been a longer time. So, God bless her heart that she's made it this far. But now I'm making those transitions, which is fantastic. But you're right, for chiropractors listening in, it's just so easy. And I think the old timers, we saw them practice 5 days a week, Reggie Gold, morning till night, 300 visits a day. You need to save and serve chiropractic and do it forever. And, I'm going to practice until I'm 80 because I love it. And I bought into all of those things personally. And I think that those are very devastating to chiropractors. And I think that, what we're talking about is taking a leap and trying to create something that's unique and different that allows you to have freedom in your life. It doesn't mean you can't be a practicing chiropractor if you choose to, but I think you got to get creative about what your life looks like, and it doesn't have to follow, what you think. I have crazy ideas like, why couldn't you practice, every other week? Right? Just stuff like that. I'm going to practice every other week. People are going to come every other week. It's not ideal, but I'm going to practice 26 weeks a year. I practice every other week. I'll see, the same volume, but every other week, and have a week. Like, there's just a million ways you can do it. But let's talk about, let's bring it into your framework. Just the basics, so people can start to, in their mind, go, okay, because we could talk for hours about what the ideas are and create this business and that business. But what's the framework in the 90 days to get people starting to think, okay, maybe I could do this if I had some help?
Yeah, so number one, I'll say, if you're asking yourself, should I create something online? Because there's some people that shouldn't.
Okay.
And it depends on your intent. And one thing I'll say, the people that are going to be successful online, number one, is they've got a passion for teaching somehow. If you don't like teaching, don't do this, because you're selling knowledge, you're selling expertise. Right. And you really must be impact driven. If you are solely financially driven and you just want to earn an extra 10K a month or whatever, when it gets hard, you tend to give up. And I've seen this. Right. You've got to have something bigger than yourself behind this. You really want to contribute. That must be the earning the extra income must be the side effect of you expanding your contribution to the world. So that's the type of person that should look at this. From a framework point of view, I'll just give you a few things that are important. Number one is online. Initially, you must choose a niche. What you would say probably is niche. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Because there's so much noise online that if you are a generalist, you're going to get lost in the noise. So the general niches or niches are health, wealth, and relationships. Those three. And then from there, you want a super niche within that. So for chiropractors, just to give you an idea of some examples, chiropractors often to go into things like lifestyle coaching. Functional medicine is a big one. Some coaches go into weight loss, say a specific condition, like maybe you're passionate about working with people with fibromyalgia or working with people with knee pain. So that's in the health circle. And then you super niche. There's one doctor doing exceptionally well. He helps people around health and weight loss, but using fasting. So they go through a program with him, and then in the middle of his program, they have to do a 5-day fast, which is quite unique in the way that he does that. And he's doing very, very well.
Right.
So that's health. Wealth. We've seen a lot of doctors be successful relatively quickly if they're doing business coaching. One doctor recently, who we helped build a PI coaching practice, so he's helping other doctors create PI practices. He started earning an income quite quickly. So if you have something that you're really good at practice, maybe you're great at attracting new patients, maybe you're great at retention, maybe you're great at many things. We've got a doctor in the UK doing very well teaching communication. But he's quite a young guy, and he's working with the younger generation, the doctors that are between, say, 25 and 35.
Right.
So that's more in the wealth. And then there's some doctors going into mindset or personal development as well. And then there's relationships. And yes, there will be doctors that maybe you have a great marriage and you want to teach others the same. So That's your niche. You've got to choose a super niche. Second to that is your avatar. You've got to understand your ideal client exceptionally well. And more well than you realize. I don't.
Very true.
And again, it's to create authority and it's to go deep. If I say I help men lose weight, very broad. If I say I help men between the ages of 40 and 50 lose weight, now I'm starting to get a bit more interesting. If I say I help serial entrepreneurs that are earning 7+ figures between the ages of 40 and 50 to lose weight, suddenly when somebody within that avatar sees that, they're interested. You attract attention to that person when you are super clear. So when we work with someone, we spend quite a bit of time with them one-on-one, getting very, very clear on that avatar. Okay, so
I think if you talk about the avatar just for a second, this is something we've repeated over and over. Same thing with our clients. It's that exercise of learning more and more about your ideal client. It seems boring, and we get a lot of people say, "Well, I've already done that." And from experience, you can never have done that enough. Like you could just more and more and understanding and deeper. And I don't think there's ever a point. And if you read great copy, right? You read great copy and you go, wow, like this person is literally speaking to me right now. That's somebody who understands their avatar.
That's it. I mean, just looking at I mentioned Russell Brunson. I mean, the guy's got $100 million business. he still looks at his avatar and still refines it and still writes down the dialogue in that avatar's mind. What's keeping them up at night? What is the dialogue in their head that's keeping them up? And when you get it right, what happens is when you get to a webinar or a sales call with a client and you discuss their challenges with them, they look at you like you're doing witchcraft. And they're like, how did you know that?
Right.
And when you get that, it's because I'll give you an example of my experience. My first online business was in mindset coaching, personal development. So my first thought was, who the hell is going to pay me money to help them with mindset when they can pay Tony Robbins?
Right.
So how am I going to stand out in the crowd if I'm up against these, world leaders in the profession? But here's the thing. I chose a very specific niche and a very specific avatar within that. And guess what? Those people would rather work with me than work with the Tony Robbins, which seems crazy.
Right.
And also, when in my communication, I was as authentic and as vulnerable as I possibly could be, so that my ideal audience connected with that. Mm-hmm. So therefore, those people that maybe don't vibrate well with Tony Robbins, but vibrate well with me because they connected with me, then they were the ones that wanted to do business with me. So that's very important to understand if you're thinking, well, I want to go into weight loss, but there's so many people out there.
Right.
When you're authentic, vulnerable, super niche, super avatar, the competition is irrelevant.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. A lot of people in practice as well, not just online, but a lot of docs struggle with that imposter syndrome, where they just think, why me? Like, why am I good enough? Why am I the person? And I have to remind my associates and other clients that so much more than that patient. Like, to you, you might be questioning it here, but to them, you are an absolute expert. And, the sooner you can buy into that, the sooner you're going to be showing up better for your clients online and offline.
That's it. I mean, the way I describe it is to say it's your first language, but it's their third language.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
So for you, it's so easy. It's so easy to adjust somebody. It's so easy to discuss, nutrition. It's so easy to whatever it is. To them, it's like their third language. So you're so far ahead that you devalue what you're doing. The adjustment is one of the most devalued things on earth because it's so easy for us to do. And we perceive that it costs us nothing, but does. We perceive that it costs us nothing. So in our minds, we're going, it's costing me nothing. It's so easy. How can I charge so much money for it?
Right.
Whereas, it took you 10 or 15 years to get to that point.
That's right.
But it's the same with online, is that every chiropractor I meet devalues their knowledge. They go, who am I? And we call it imposter syndrome. And here's the thing, everybody has it.
Yeah.
If you don't have imposter syndrome, it probably means you are an imposter or a sociopath.
Or a narcissist,
You're a narcissist. Because because we as human beings, we tend to minimize ourselves. And we just need to accept that and accept that little voice in the head will come up from time to time and actually do the stuff anyway, because it doesn't actually go away. I still get it, so, and I'm sure you do too. So once you accept imposter syndrome is a normal part of human psychology and you learn to live with it rather than trying to crush it, and you understand that your first language is their third language, that really helps if you have the imposter syndrome.
So we've got niche, avatar, and what's the next step?
The next one is an offer. What are you offering them? And this is why your niche and your avatar is so key, because if you don't understand them better than they understand themselves, you're not going to create an offer that is enticing to them.
Right.
So if you're going to be creating a course, say a 6-week module course, or you're going to be coaching them one-on-one or coaching them in group, you've got to put together an offer that when they look at it, it's so enticing to them that they almost feel stupid not taking you up on it.
Right.
It's like, if I don't work with this guy, I'm going to kick myself because this is so amazing. Now, to get to that point, an irresistible offer takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. But if you don't have that niche and avatar down, I don't care what you do, you're never going to get the offer down. And I don't care what your website or sales funnel looks like.
Right.
It means nothing. Niche and avatar is the full foundation. And then websites or sales funnels or offers come after that.
Well, they're really, it's like the avatar homework assignments, the avatar project. You could just constantly. I mean, I don't know how many different ways I've tried to communicate my offer, change my offer. And when you and I are talking about offer, I know a lot of chiropractors think discount. We're not talking about a discount.
No,
We're talking
opposite.
about the opposite. We're talking about what are you offering to this client inside your niche to say, I can help you in this exact way, and this is what it's going to look like. The pricing is separate. I mean, that's the same thing in your practice. People get too mixed up on money and service, money and value. They're not necessarily, they are connected in some way, but that's not what an offer is. An offer is, what's the next step for that person to take, crafted and communicated in a way that just absolutely knocks their socks off. So if you can nail the niche and the avatar and the offer, I mean the fulfillment of the product, the fulfillment of the service, well, for practitioners, we assume is the hardest part. It's actually the easiest part. For us, again, we know what to do. We know the analysis. I mean, you got to build yourself to that point. But yeah, I spent 7-8 years in practice thinking me being an amazing chiropractor was all that I needed to do. And that was, it. And then I realized that, I don't say any monkey can do what we do, but we are trained experts. And once you reach that point, you realize, oh my gosh, I don't know my niche. I don't know my avatar. I don't have a good offer. When you nail those things and then all of a sudden people start flooding in, you realize, wow, my business just got a whole lot easier and I was making it really difficult. So I'm sure it's the same online as it would be offline in practice.
Absolutely. And you can, when you are niching and you've got a great offer, you're going deep. What you're doing is you're solving a very big problem.
Yeah.
So let's say I help entrepreneurs with low back pain. And in my messaging, I'm discussing how, you've got so much to do. Your to-do list is forever. You're supposed to be at your laptop for 12 hours a day, but you're lying on the floor because of your back pain. Imagine that's my messaging.
Right.
That's a very deep problem now for an entrepreneur that's supporting his family.
Yeah.
Now, if I say to him, that's going to, this is my offer and it's going to cost you $3,000. To him, it's like, okay, if he believes it's going to help him, that's right, because of the value there. Sure. Rather than just saying, I will give you a program of stretches to help you with your back pain is $27.
Right. And it's not going to work.
And it's not going to work and he's not going to do it because there's no value to it. So, one of the things, and I think maybe I spoke to you about this last time we spoke, is a great exercise from a private practice point of view and online is to ask yourself, if I had to charge $1,500 for my new patient exam, what did I have to do to create that value?
That's right.
From the experience of when they call to when they come in to what I do, to what exams I do, to how I relate to those exams. If I had to charge $1,500, what would I have to do? And you know what? Then go and create that and charge $1,500. Rather than trying to discount yourself due to competitors and all these other things.
The race to the bottom cannot be won, not in any kind of way that's going to bring you the life that you want. I don't know where I read it, but I think this really fits with what you're saying. When you're digging into the problem and identifying the problem, I heard somebody mention it as, you've got to figure out and solve migraines, not headaches. And I thought that was, really, really well said. It's you got to solve migraines, not headaches.
Impactful problem. Yeah, absolutely.
You got it. So we've got a niche, avatar, offer, problem. Why don't you kind of bring it all together for us and give us a sense of, what the message you want to leave with chiropractors listening, watching for, how they can do this and can they do it? What makes you believe they can do this?
So first of all, my deep belief is that any chiropractor can do this because if you've qualified as a chiropractor, you've got the brain cells. Right. Most chiropractors are impact driven. We're good communicators. We love to educate. So, I mean, if you look at, there's kids out there building $15 million businesses teaching video games. So
it's crazy.
Any chiropractor can do this. The question is, how badly do you want it? How much time do you have to do it? So, and for full transparency, when we started our program, it was a do-it-yourself offer that we created. Mm-hmm. So it was a step-by-step blueprint with templates to follow, and they could join these mastermind groups where there would be a copywriter on board and there'd be a marketing expert, and they could ask questions to the experts. And we got to a point after working with 80 chiropractors, and we just realized that we weren't happy with the success rate. There's not enough of these chiropractors were getting to a point where they were generating recurring income that would change the quality of their life. And we sat down with some of our avatar clients and said, what is the challenges there? And the problem was that because you're running a busy practice and there's so many new skill sets to learn, it just becomes overwhelming. And then you go back to the comfort.
Yeah.
Now, if your why is big enough, like mine was, you push through that, but that's 18 hours a day for over a year, and not always about to do that. So what we've done now is we've completely changed our offer. And what we do now is with 90 days, you have a team of 4 people that work with you one-on-one.
Wow.
So the copywriter, we have a mindset coach that's got a master's degree in neuroscience. We have a content creation coach that helps with putting together the course. We have a Facebook coach. They sit with you for 90 days, holding you accountable, speaking to you every week for 90 days. And then they go and build the funnel, write the copy, and do everything for you. Now, that I believe is the way for chiropractic to go.
Sure.
The reason is because we're not doing this full time.
Yeah.
The accountability is there, the support is there, the hand holding is there, and all the stuff that's outside your area of genius is delegated. You do not need to learn how to build a funnel. I mean, you've got a lot of the skill set I've seen with the stuff you've seen, but that's not everybody.
Right.
You do not need to, like I did, sit for a Saturday afternoon for 4 hours trying to figure out the title of the webinar because you're not a copywriter.
Right.
Rather, you write down what you want to say and have a copywriter do it for you.
Yeah.
So
I think that's great. I think the done for you is so powerful in the chiropractic realm. I mean, good for you. I mean, that's a lot of work on your end, putting that together and creating a done for you. That I think the big thing too for chiropractors, if I can speak as a somebody on the other side of it, if I was a chiropractor listening to that, I mean, that sounds enticing. The thing that I would first think is, oh my gosh, this person, they're not me, and I want it to be me, and I want it to be. But again, that becomes a procrastination factor. They don't get it done. So it's great that you are a chiropractor. And this goes back to just niching down, right? You know the niche. You are a chiropractor. You know the pain points. You know what you want to say, and so I think for potential clients, they can think to themselves, okay, I can jump over that gap because I know, this guy, this coach, this mentor has been here, and what they're going to create is going to be a good reflection of me.
And that's you bring up a very valid point, because I made this mistake. A lot of in the whole online game, there's this whole thing of funnel hacking. Find someone who's doing it well and hack them.
Right.
And what I found from that is, if your messaging, if your copywriting, if even your offer is not in alignment with who you authentically are, it doesn't work. Right. You can copy the copy of Russell Brunson or Tony Robbins, and it just won't work. There's something that stops you. So a good team, a good copywriter will sit with you one-on-one, extract the information from you as who you authentically are, and he will write the copy as you, right? Not as Russell Brunson, not as anybody else. And that's why you've got to have this one-on-one aspect, because the team has to get to know you during that 90-day process, so that they build something that's not only going to be successful, but that you love doing. You don't want that Monday morning feel,
right?
And you want to be working with your ideal clients. You want to be confident about your offer. You want to enjoy talking to people about your offer, which is again why we created this, because literally there's nothing else out there, inside or outside the profession, that is as individualized, customizable, and as one-on-one as this is. And this is after me doing this for 2 or 3 years and working with 80 chiropractors over the last year and a half and figuring out what will work. And my belief is the done for you with the hand holding is the way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. It's good for you. I mean, it's great to hear that. And, obviously on our end, focusing more on what happens on the delivery side of things, building retention-based practices. It's nice to know there's a fellow colleague that, can help doctors create either these online front-end components or ways to expand their practice once they have this, solid retention built in. It gives you another way to grow your practice vertically with patients who are already inside of your practice, and also horizontally to patients who aren't in your practice, or even worldwide with some of these topics. It doesn't have to be local, which is, I think, one of the real powerful parts of online. So, Robert, I'll put some contact information in all in the video here, and as we send this out to our people. But why don't you wrap this up, and what would you like to leave for chiropractors to think about as it pertains to what your vision is for them and their practices and their lives?
I would say it's normal to have limitations in your mind and fears about this. But what I would strongly kind of suggest every chiropractor to think about is, are they impacting people's lives as much as they would like? And I had a successful bricks and mortar practice, but in my heart, I knew that the impact that I could have on this world could be bigger. And that's why online worked for me. And now I'm at a point where I'm helping chiropractors impact their community. So my ability to impact the world has really grown exponentially because I've gone online. And I believe that chiropractic truth is injected into every chiropractor's online program. So no matter what your niche is, if it's nutrition or weight loss or functional medicine or whatever it is, we see the world a certain way. And I think the world needs more of that paradigm. So I feel a responsibility for every chiropractor to expand their impact. And for some of you, going online may be the best avenue for that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And thank you for bringing all that to us today. It was even I have my own notes in front of me as usual. And, a lot of these are my own, scratch my own itch for my own personal development, finding great people who are in and outside of chiropractic, bring them on the show and the podcast. So thank you for coming on, joining us today. And for everybody listening, thanks for joining the drive. Nope, I did it again. I did it the same thing last time. I have too many podcasts, Robert. This is, I got to get back in the flow and then figure out what podcast I'm on and what day and time it is. So thank you for listening to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.